Hi there. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the HTML Canvas API, and we're going to see how we can use this API in vanilla JavaScript to draw images to our HTML canvas using the 9-slice image scaling technique. The HTML Canvas API is very powerful and provides a number of built-in methods for how you can draw out image data to your HTML canvas. However, when you want to scale an image and draw that image without it looking stretched and distorted, this can get a little tricky. A good example of this can be seen on my screen here, where we have a nice UI border image that we want to draw to our canvas. However, it's a little bit small. And what we want to do is we want to go ahead and scale this up so that way it fills up our whole canvas element. However, the results are not that great when I scale just the image using the built-in scaling methods, and it feels very blurry and very distorted. So one useful technique that you can use is the 9-slice scaling technique, which allows you to stretch an image both horizontally and vertically while retaining these nice crisp borders here that we have on our original image. Alright, so if you're not familiar with the 9-slice scaling technique, basically all that is where you take your 2D image and you want to go ahead and split it into 9 parts, and then that way you can scale your image proportionally and retain your borders that you cut out of your image. So a good example of this is here, where we have this image that we want to stretch horizontally. And so if we just stretch it, our corners are no longer maintained. And so if we want to maintain this in our image, what we want to do is split our image into 9 parts. The 4 main parts are going to be your corners. And so for your corners, what you do is you define your width and height that you want to cut from your corner. And then what you do is you dynamically calculate your other 5 parts. And so the 2, the 4, the 6, and the 8, we would calculate based on the size we want to stretch our image, but we subtract the width of that corner cut. And then that way here, all we're doing is we're stretching this part here, and so we can stretch it endlessly and it retains that nice border. Likewise for 4 and 6, what we would do is we just dynamically calculate the height based on how we want to scale it, if we want to scale it vertically as well. Then finally for 5, all we would do is just stretch this according to our width and height that we want. And we subtract the pieces that we cut from our corners here. And once we do that, we now get a very nice image where our image is now stretched, but we have these nice rounded corners still. Alright, so to go ahead and get started, there's going to be a link in the description of this video to some source code that has a starter template. Basically, that template just has a very simple scene like we see here, where we have our canvas and some JavaScript, and we're drawing out 2 images. So we have our initial image and we have our scaled image. And so if you can go ahead and download that zip folder and open that in your IDE of choice, we'll go ahead and get started. Alright, so once you open up the zip folder, what you should see is there's going to be a folder called Assets, and this has 2 different images that we're going to use in our demo here. And so we have this glass panel, and then we have the border that we see on our canvas element right now. Besides that, there's going to be a source folder that's going to have our main.js file, and so this is going to have some code, a boilerplate for rendering out elements to our canvas element here. Then we have a very simple web page where we just have some styling to center our canvas, and basically we reference our JavaScript file. So if you're not familiar with how to draw and scale images to your HTML canvas element using JavaScript, there's going to be a link in the description of this video, as well as there'll be a card on the screen now that you can go ahead and watch that. Alright, so to go ahead and get started, let's jump over to our main.js file. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and define a function that's going to be used for drawing out our 9-slice image. So let's go ahead and make a new function, and we're going to call this draw 9-slice image. And so to go ahead and draw out our image, the first thing we're going to need is our canvas rendering context. So we're just going to call this CTX. And then we're going to need our HTML image element that we want to go ahead and draw. And so we're going to go ahead and pass an image. And then so what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to draw out parts of our image based on proportions that we want to provide. And so for our image, what we need to do is define our corner cut. And so we need to define our width and our height of this corner piece here that we will not stretch. And so to do that, let's go ahead and add in some parameters, and we're going to call this left width. We're going to do right width, and then we're going to do top height, and we'll do bottom height. And basically what that's going to do is this is going to allow us to define on our image here from the left, how far over do we want to come for our cut like this. For our right, it's going to be similar over on this side, how far we come over and then cut our image. Then for our top and bottom height, it's how far down we're going to come to cut our image, and then how far up to cut our image. And what this is going to result in is after we do those cuts, we will have our 9 images that we saw that we need to create. And so now what we need to know is where we want to position our image when we draw it to our canvas element. So we're going to need a X and Y coordinate so we know where to draw it relatively on our canvas. And then finally, the main part we'll go ahead and need is we need the overall width and height that we want to scale our image to. So for example, if I want to scale my image like this, we're going to need that width and height. So we'll have width and we're going to have height. All right, so now that we've defined our function and the parameters that we need to go ahead and draw out our 9-slice image, we need to go ahead and calculate some of our cuts that we need to make. So what we need to do here is we need to calculate how much we're actually cutting into our image, so that way we know the width and our height of our elements here, so our 2, 4, 5, 6, and 8. And so to calculate that, what we need to do is we need to take our left width and add it to our right width, and then we need to subtract it from the overall width of our image. And then that's going to give us this line here, so we know how much we need to draw. Likewise, to get our height like this, we need to go ahead and take our top height and our bottom height, add those together and subtract them from the overall image, and we'll get that total length here. So go ahead and calculate that. We're going to make 2 new variables. We'll do const. We're going to do total width cut, and we'll set that equal to our left width plus our right width. And then we'll do const, and we'll do total height cut, and we'll set that equal to our top height plus our bottom height. All right, so the next, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and find out our X and Y position of where a part begins on our original image and the overall width and height of that part. So in the Canvas API for the draw image method, one of the things we need to provide is when we want to draw out part of our image, we need to define the rectangle of that image that we're going to draw. And so we need to provide our starting X and starting Y value, and then the starting height and the starting width. And that's what we need to do here for each of our 9 parts of our original image. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make a variable for each of our parts, and we'll have those values. So what we'll do is we'll do const, we'll do our top left, and so we're going to set this equal to an array. And so for our array, we'll have 4 parts. We'll have our X and Y value of where we start our rectangle, and then we'll have our width and our height, which will give us our overall bounding rectangle here. And so our top left, this is going to be 0, 0 where we start our cut, since it's the top left part of our image. And then basically we need to take our left cut and then our top cut to get that full rectangle. So we'll go ahead and do our left width, and we'll do our top height, and that gives us our top left image position here. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this and paste it twice. And now we're going to go ahead and change our variable to top middle, and we will do top right. And then what we'll do is for our top right, basically what we want to do is we want to take the overall width of our image and subtract our right width that we want to calculate here. And that'll give us this position here on our image. And then for our Y value, because we're still at the top, it's going to be 0. So what we'll do is we'll do our image, and we'll grab the width from our image, and we're going to subtract our right width. And then for our bounding box, we'll need to use our right width, and then we'll keep our top height. And now for our top middle piece here, what we want to go ahead and do is our left width will be our starting X position. So we'll go ahead and update our X. For Y, we're still up at 0. And now for our rectangle here, what we want to do is we want to take our overall image width, and we want to subtract that total width cut that we created before. So what we'll do is we'll do our image dot width, and we're going to subtract our total width cut. And then we'll still have top height for how far down we want to come. All right, so then next, let's go ahead and do our middle row. So let's go ahead and copy this here, and we'll go ahead and paste it. And so we're going to have middle left, we'll have middle right, and then we'll have our just center. All right, so then for our left piece here, what we want to do is we'll start at 0 for our x, and then for our y position, we're just coming down our top height here. So we'll go ahead and update our y value. And then for how far we want to come over, that's just going to be our left width. And now for our how high it needs to be, this is going to be our total image width minus our total height cut that we did before. And so we're just going to make a new variable for this. We'll do const, and we'll do middle row height, and we're going to set that equal to our image dot height, and we're going to subtract our total height cut. And then we'll go ahead and pass that in here. All right, so now for our right piece, what we want to go ahead and do is we're going to have our image width, and we're going to subtract our right width, so we'll get our x position. So we'll go ahead and take our image width minus our right width. For our y value, that's just going to be our top cut here. And so we'll take our top height and pass that in. And then for how big it is, it's going to be our right width. And then for our height, it's going to be our middle row height that we defined. Okay, so now for a centerpiece, basically we just kind of need to combine those together. So for our center, we're going to come over our left width, so that'll be our starting position. Then for how far down we need to come, that's going to be our top height. So go ahead and update our 0. And now for our overall width, it's just going to be our image width, subtracting our total width cut, so kind of like what we did for number 2 here. And then for our height, this will just be our middle row height. All right, so now we just need to go ahead and do our bottom row. So let's go ahead and copy these 3 variables, go ahead and paste them, and we'll do bottom left, we'll do bottom right, and we'll go ahead and do bottom middle. All right, so for our bottom left piece, we're going to start at our x position of 0, so we're good there. But then for our y value, we basically need to take our whole image and we need to subtract our bottom height to get that starting y value. So we're going to go ahead and store that in a variable because we're going to use that in a few spots. So we'll do const, and we're going to do bottom row y value is going to be equal to our image height minus our bottom height. And so that's going to give us our y position for our bottom left corner. And then for our width and height, basically it's going to be our left width, and then we're going to have our bottom height for how high we want to come up. So we'll have bottom height. All right, so then for our bottom right piece here, basically we want to take our image width, subtract our white width, and that's going to give us our x. So we have that. And then for our y position, that's going to be our bottom row y. And now for our width and height, so we're going to have our right width, and then we'll have our bottom height for how big this rectangle is. So we're going to update this, we'll have bottom height. And then finally for our middle piece here, basically we'll come over our left width. For our y value, it's going to be our bottom row y. And then for calculating our size, we're taking our image width, we're subtracting our total width cut. And then for our height, it's going to be our bottom height. All right, so now we've defined all of our source images and what the properties are going to be for them. We can go ahead and start drawing out our images to our canvas element. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to copy this line of code here, and we're going to jump back to our code. And so what we'll do is for each of our pieces, we're going to start drawing out our image to our canvas element. So what we're going to go ahead and do is let's come down to where we have some of our draw image logic already, and let's comment out our scaled image right here. And then what we're going to do is back up in our function. Let's go ahead and draw out our top row. And so what we're going to do is we're going to use our canvas rendering context, and we're going to call draw image. And so for draw image, basically what we need to do is need to provide our source image element. So this will be our image that we passed in to our function. And then we need to provide our source x, y, source width, and source height. And so these are the 4 values that we provided here for each of our 9 images we want to go ahead and draw. And so what we need to do is we just need to reference those values. We're going to use the spread operator, and we're going to do top left to draw our top left piece first. And then so for our dx or dy, d width, and d height, basically what those represent is in the draw image method, this is going to be your destination position and your destination width and height of where you want to draw that part of your image. And so basically dx, dy is where it's going to start, where it starts the draw. And then your destination width and height is how much you're going to scale that part of the image. And so for our corner piece here, for our top left, basically our X and Y is going to be the X and Y value where we're going to start drawing our image. But then for our destination width and height, these are going to be our corner cuts that we provided. So this will be our left width, and then our top height to know how far down we want to draw that piece of the rectangle. All right, and so if we want to go ahead and test our code, what we'll do is come down to our main code block, and we're going to go ahead and call our function. And so we're going to do draw 9-slice image. And so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and pass in our canvas rendering context. We're going to pass in our image that's already been loaded. And then we need to go ahead and provide our cuts that we want to make on our image. And so we're just going to do 32 pixels for all of our cuts for our corner pieces. And so that just means for our 4 corners, it's going to be 32 by 32 pixels. And now we want to go ahead and define where we want to start our draw. So we'll do 25, 25, so we're not in the top left corner all the way. And then we want our width and height. So let's go ahead and do 350 pixels by 250 pixels. All right, so what should happen is if we save and we take a look at our web page, we should now see our image is now drawn. And so now we have our top left corner of our image and it looks very nice. So just for comparison, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to uncomment out the code where we had our scaled image. And you can see this corner piece looks much better than this corner piece up here. All right, so now that we have our top left image drawn, what we just need to do is draw out the remaining 8 pieces. So we're just going to copy this block of code here. We're going to paste it twice, and we're going to go ahead and do our top row. And so now for our top row, basically what we need to do is for our middle piece, we want to copy our top middle here, and then real quick, we'll copy our top right. And then what we need to do is calculate our X and Y values for when we want to start drawing out those pieces. And so for our middle piece, basically our X position is going to be our X we provide plus our left width. And this will use the same Y value. And now for our width and height, this is just going to be our width minus our total width cut. And then so that way we get this middle piece here. And then we need to use our top height. And then for our right piece, basically for our X value, it's going to be our X plus our overall width minus our right width. We'll stay with our Y position, and then we need to do our right width, and then we'll have our top height. So go ahead and save. Now we have our 3 pieces drawn, and we have our stretched rectangle, and it looks really good. So now that we've drawn the top row, we just need to go ahead and repeat the same process for our middle and our bottom. So let's go ahead and just copy this block of code, and we're going to go ahead and paste it 2 times. And then so real quick, let's go ahead and update all of our values for our spread operator. And so we'll start with the bottom. So we're going to have bottom right, bottom middle, and we'll have bottom left. And then we need to go ahead and do our middle. So we're going to have middle left, we'll have center, and we'll have middle right. And now we just need to go ahead and update our destination X, Y, and width and height. All right, so what we'll do is we'll start with our middle left piece. And so for our middle left, our X position will be the X value provided. And then our Y is just going to be our Y position plus the top height of that cut. And then so for our destination width and height, so our left width will be how big our rectangle is going to be. And then we need for our height, we're going to take our height we provided and we'll subtract our total height cut. And so that's going to tell us how far down to come for our left piece here. Then for our center, basically what we want to do is for our X position, it's going to be X plus our left width. So how far over we want to come for starting that cut. Then for our Y value, it's going to be Y plus our top height. So that's how far down we want to come. Now for our overall width, we need to take our full width and subtract our total width cut, similar to what we did before. And then finally for our height, we're going to need our height minus our total height cut. And then for our middle right piece, we're going to need our X, and we're going to need to add our width, and we're going to subtract our right width, and it's going to give us a position over here. For our Y value, we're going to take Y plus our top height. Then for our width and height, basically what we want to do is we're going to take So we'll take our white width for our width, and then for our height, we just need to take our height and we need to subtract our total height cut. Oh, and then real quick, we just need to update our variable here. This should be total height. This should be total height cut. All right, so now we see our right piece is now drawn to our scene. All right, so finally, we just need to go ahead and do our last three pieces. All right, so for our bottom left, for our X position, we'll use the X that was provided. For our Y position, we want to take our Y value and then add our height that was provided minus our bottom height cut. So that's going to give us how far up we need to start drawing our image. Then for our width, we're going to use our left width, and then we'll go ahead and use our bottom height for calculating our height. All right, then, so for our bottom middle piece, what we need to do is we take our X value and we're going to add our left cut to it to get our starting position. So we'll have X plus our left width. So for our Y value, we need to take our Y position that was provided, and then we need to go ahead and add in the height, subtracting our bottom height. So basically, we just need to copy what we did here. And then for our width and height, we want to go ahead and take our width minus our total width cut to go ahead and get that full size. Height, this is just going to be our bottom height. Now for our bottom right piece, we'll have our X. We'll add our width minus our right width to get our X position. For our Y value, this is also going to be our Y plus our height minus our bottom height. And then for our width and height, we need to go ahead and do our right width to get that width, and then we'll do our bottom height for our height. All right, so go ahead and save. We can test our changes, and we'll see right away that we have our new rectangle drawn onto our scene. And it looks very nice and very crisp compared to the blurry one that was shown before. All right, and to see another example with a different image, what we're going to go ahead and do is we come down to our code where we do our const and our image variable. We load in our asset. Let's go ahead and uncomment this line here and comment out this line here. And we're going to go ahead and load in our glass panel. And so we'll see right away, we can see that our code works with different assets as long as it's an image that can be sliced properly to do that 9-slice image scaling technique. All right, so now that we've seen how we can use the native Canvas API and the built-in methods to draw images to our Canvas element and how we can apply the 9-slice technique to these methods, that actually brings this video to an end. So just to give credit to where we use some of our assets, our glass panel here was actually created by Kenny. And so there's going to be a link in the description of the video to where this asset is located. And it's part of this UI space expansion pack here. For our other image, this was created by BD Dragon 1727. It's hosted on itch.io, and there's going to be a link to this asset as well. All right, and with that, that actually brings this video to an end. As a reminder, there's going to be a link in the description of the video to the starting source code for this example, as well as the complete source code for this video. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did enjoy the video, please consider liking the video and hitting the bell icon to be notified when the next video in the series is released. For more great Phaser 3 content, please see the links on your screen now.